So what we're going to do, so in order to get started with Vue, and again, the nice thing here, if you scroll down the CDN, is it like tells you how to get the stuff all set up here. But what we're going to do, we're going to go hyper simple. So to get Vue up and running, we go let. We're going to create a variable called Vue. And as before, as we were doing with our objects, because Vue is an object, we go new Vue. Yep. So remember, this is the syntax for creating a new object. So Vue is effectively a class in this case. By the way, the other thing that's slightly different to Python, of course, with objects is you have to use this new keyword. I don't know if that was that clear-ish?
Yeah.
I mean, again, new in of itself. So the thing with Java again is there is a lot of stuff that is again this syntactic sugar, which is kind of a weird expression. But there's a lot of stuff in JavaScript that is just syntactic sugar. But new just does that. You can actually effectively want override new, but don't. And I think we'll leave it at that. So Vue is this is the Vue function, and the Vue function takes in this object again. So it's just objects are just a pair of curly braces. There's nothing magic to them. And then to activate Vue, we need to tell it which part of our web page do we want to take control of. So we want to take control of this div here that we've given the ID of app. This is very common. You probably want to set out a portion of your page that is going to be set to be controlled by Vue. And so in order to select this, what we do is we use the L property in our objects. We go L colon, and then we do brackets, and then it's hashtag app, because again, this is the CSS selector. So we're doing hashtag because it's an ID. And this will select app. So we save this and go to our page. Actually, let's just remove this button because I created that for a laugh. You'll see that still absolutely nothing has happened. And you're probably thinking like, what the hell, Rob? Actually, you'll notice something. You'll notice that this little triangle up here now has gone green. That might be something you've noticed. Whereas on most web pages, it's grayed out. So this means that VueJS is activated. So that's nice. Set data, and you set it equal to another object, so another curly brackets. Yep. And what data is data is a store of all the variables that you want to use in your application. So it's kind of a one-stop store for all the variables that we're going to use going forward in our VueJS application. These are all the variables that VueJS is going to listen to and track. So let's just start with the most simplest thing that you could pass into data, the simplest variable. Let's just set this hello Ben and Mark thing as a variable inside of Vue. So how will we go about doing that? So let's just cut this, and we would add it in using let's call it greeting. And again, it's a property, so we do greeting colon, and then hello Ben and Mark are a string. So we set that equal to that, yeah? And notice if I save, hello Ben and Mark disappears because now there's nothing inside of our div. So what we're going to do, so we've got this now. So now we're actually going to do some VueJS. And the core part of VueJS is that in Vue, in this Vue object. So what I'm gonna henceforth refer to as the Vue object is everything within this curly brackets that we're passing into new Vue. And then within this, there's a list of various properties. So remember, L is a property. Think key in the dictionary if you're coming from Python. So L is a property which sets up where our app starts. There are a list of other ones, and they all kind of have specific purposes. And the most important out of all of them is the data property, which is you set data and you set it equal to another object, so another curly brackets. Yep. And what data is data is a store of all the variables that you want to use in your application. So it's a kind of a one-stop store for all the variables that we're going to use going forward in our VueJS application. These are all the variables that VueJS is going to listen to and track. So let's just start with the most simplest thing that you could pass into data, the simplest variable. Let's just set this hello Ben and Mark thing as a variable inside of Vue. So how will we go about doing that? So let's just cut this, and we would add it in using, let's call it greeting. And again, it's a property, so we do greeting colon, and then hello Ben and Mark are a string. So we set that equal to that, yeah? And notice if I save, hello Ben and Mark disappears because now there's nothing inside of our div. So you can just type, for example, if I just type in a single pair of curly brackets, you'll see them actually print out.
Yeah.
Because you might actually want to type out, but double curly brackets was chosen because it's quite rare.
Yeah.
It's the same reason, for example, like double dollar is chosen for latex.
Yeah.
It's just chosen because it's a rare pair of symbols. But actually, so kind of just to stress a point, by the way. So when we go into, if we actually inspect our HTML here, yeah. So ignoring all this stuff here that says code injected by live server, because that's just stuff that this that just deals with the auto refreshing that our thingy done. So just ignore that. But if we look inside div ID app here, yeah. Notice that it says just hello Ben and Mark like on its own.
Yeah.
Like you don't see the curly brackets. It is on of itself. This is indistinguishable. You couldn't tell.
It is just JavaScript.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just HTML. Like it's not.
Sorry. So yeah.
It's not hiding anything like behind it.
Okay.
It's that what you see is what you get. So that's quite cool. And the other cool thing. So say we go to this is where you can play around with the view. This view thing here in your DevTools. So if you go into Vue, and you click on this root thing here, you'll actually see our data here. Yeah.
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 What we can do is we can just edit this in that. This is just like a really nice way to debug. So we can say hello Ben, Dan, and Mark. And look now, it says hello Ben, Dan, and Mark. Or whatever you guys are writing on. You can write whatever you want for your greeting. So that's kind of nifty. The fact that what we've developed now is we've developed a intimate relationship now between the stuff in our div and what's stored in our Vue object.
Yeah.
So the important thing is this is not just something that's run once when the page loads. Yeah. Whenever this greeting variable gets changed, VueJS will update what is between these curly brackets for greeting. That's pretty nifty. And that's kind of when you get down to that is going to be the core of VueJS, which is just going to be, designing your components to change this data. And the nice thing about VueJS is you don't have to worry about listening for these changes and having to update stuff. VueJS does it for you. So as long as you set this link up here, whenever you change this from anywhere within your JavaScript, this will get updated, and VueJS will make sure that the most up-to-date version is shown. So that's pretty cool. And just to stress the point, we can add in other stuff to data. So we could add in, another greeting, and we could do, hello Rob, because I feel like I've been left out of a lot of these greetings as of late. Note that you have to chain these with commas like you would in Python, just so you know. Yeah. So make sure you put a comma in here. But then, for example, I can do greeting, and then I could put inside of an H1, another greeting. And see, look, and now because I've put it inside of an H1, it's bold. Yeah. Another important thing to mention, by the way, is you have to do this with it. This only works because these are inside this ID of app that we've selected here. So if I do this, if I copy and paste this, and I put this outside of our div here that we've selected, then you see we don't see anything. It doesn't work. So that's something else just to be aware of. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So the one with the ID on it.
Yeah. So VueJS will only listen for changes and update changes on stuff inside of ID app because that's what we've selected here.
Okay.
And that's actually another really powerful thing about Vue. You know, if you want to just make something if you've already got an existing web page and you want to add VueJS in, you can be sure that VueJS will only tamper with the bits that you let it control. So the rest of the website is still free. It's free of VueJS's chains. Effectively, you can do whatever you like with it. VueJS will only control the stuff that's under its control, that you let it control, which is really nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have enough time to do data binding? I think we do. Just quickly. This is just a very quick. So we've kind of done here is the simplest possible thing. We've just taken text here, and we're showing it.